Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Theo and Paul for another episode of the Pixar Retrospective. And this week, we're going to be doing Inside Out. I'm trying very hard not to laugh, and I'm going to leave this in. I'm not going to edit this out. We're doing Inside Out this week. We're at episode 15, and for a film that is full of emotions, we're going to kickstart with a round of comedy, as we've done. There is a very well-known behind-the-scenes joke for the people who've been on the series that we will retain. And the only way you'll ever find out about it is if you come meet us in person and ask. Weirdest intro I've probably ever done. I'm just going to jump in.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't apologise. It's my fault, as it's every time. How are we both doing tonight?
Not as good as Paul, apparently.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. For anyone watching at home, there's a running joke, and we can't talk about the running joke, but if you pay specific information and attention to episode 1, I discussed with Aaron what it is before it became an inside joke. That's the only thing I can give away that makes him run. Unfortunately, every video we have of Paul on the series is going to open with him laughing, which is like magical. Last time I saw someone comment saying it's going to be a good episode when you know Paul's laughing at the start, which I think is important. But
you're going to have to create a montage of me just laughing at the beginning.
It's like the old animated bloopers, but Pixar don't do that anymore.
My casting couch one because the times have changed.
You know what? That's still one of the funniest jokes, though. That's still the funniest Pixar joke, and it's not allowed to be discussed because the irony was that Barbie did get a bigger role in the third film, which just really epitomised it. But with that being said, Theo, this is the first time we've had you on for the Pixar Retrospective, and we've got it as a big one. It's Inside Out. I put everyone on the spot when we've been doing the show. What is your earliest Pixar memory?
Oh, great question. I think my earliest one is Bug's Life.
Okay.
I can't remember. What year did Bug's Life come out?
98.
98.
I was 1 when it came out, so I think I remember like watching it on video when I was a few years old. Paul's nearly been sick everywhere there. His Inside Out people are flying, but
I'm just so old. I'm just so old.
Yeah, I think definitely Bug's Life. Yeah,
I think bar 2 people that have been on the show so far, I think almost every single person's like initial memories are like us. Toy Story, Bug's Life, like that late 90s little run. I think we were the perfect ages. We got the right films coming out, and then we get someone young on, and they're like, Cars. I love Cars. I love Cars too. And it's been a discussion point on the channel that Cars has got huge. People are now commenting it on our videos. We had a lot of people angry that we said that Cars 2 is the worst Pixar film.
It is.
And then we had some other. Yeah, I agree. It is. And then we had some other people saying, I cannot believe. So I was like, I cannot believe there's a generation of Cars fans. They're real. They're everywhere. And
there's more Cars merch than anything else.
Exactly. It's everywhere. Like little £3 Hot Wheels toys for every car, probably done twice a year. It's somehow got more merch than Toy Story, like revenue-wise. I think Cars has made something like $26 or $46 billion from what I'd read. And, there's 3 films, 2 spin-off films, 2 many animated series on Disney+. Too many other short films elsewhere. And Cars just opens up a world of pain, of lore and questions. But we aren't talking Cars. We are talking maybe, I don't want to be disrespectful here, how do I even say this next sentence? The most recent big original film? That sounds like I'm a 3-year-old. Of Pixar.
I thought you were going to say the last good Pixar.
No, that's harsh. That's harsh. That's very harsh.
Fight me, people.
I mean, Inside Out, then, we'll get into it. It's almost 11 years old now, which is quite scary. And we'll talk about our memories. I've got some very vivid ones of this. But it is safe to say we're discussing what many regard as one of the best animated films ever made. So this episode I've looked forward to. And I'm not picking on films we've done recently, like Cars 2. I've really liked Brave on a rewatch, if I'm honest. And looking ahead, we've got some wild ones, which I'm not too keen on. But Inside Out has stood the test of time. and like others, it's had a sequel. Probably going to get a trilogy as well. And I'm excited to have this chat. And I feel like I've been waffling. So as always, I want people to comment. And before I get into our memories with it, I'm going to do the IMDb plot synopsis, which is young Riley is uprooted from her Midwest life and moved to San Francisco. Her joy, fear, anger, disgust, and sadness conflict on how best to navigate a new city, house, and school. That's way too elongated to be a plot synopsis, and they just list every single character. Where I want to jump to with this one, I want everyone. We're all similar ages, right? Can you guys remember? Like,
yeah. Reasonably, yeah.
I'm the middle here by like 2-3 years. It's not too far a gap between us all, if I'm totally honest. But I've got a really embarrassing story I'm watching Inside Out the cinema. So do you guys want me to go first, or do you guys want to go first of your memories of this film? Because I'm curious people's history is.
No, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, please do.
There's a setting to be had here. So I think this came out in July 2015, right, in the UK. So I was just turned 19, like 18 turning 19. So when I was younger, I worked at Sainsbury's, my normal like weekend job whilst I'm doing uni, and you'd break up early, right, for summer. So you'd go to the cinema loads. I would finish a shift at work at like 2 and walk over to my local cinema for a screening for like 3. And it was always midday, empty, bliss, best time to go. Loved it. And this screening in 2015, I book online an empty cinema screen. As I would do, you go to the biggest screen. If you're by yourself, you go in the middle. You get the best seats in the house. And this was the screen 1 of the view I used to go to back in the day. And obviously I'm there early as I always am. I've got my food, relaxed, chilled out, ready. Then a family comes in. Okay. They're sat like 2 seats away from me. It's like a bit strange picking a seat close to someone when they're by themselves. Then another family came in. And across the next 25 minutes of adverts, I was in a full cinema screen that turned out to be the first week of the summer holidays. And I kid you not, the looks I was being given by some of those parents were not appreciated, and anxiety through the roof. Looked like a paedophile because he's gone to watch, the old, grown-ups don't watch animated films. So, when they're giving that scowl, like, why are you here? So I didn't go to the cinema to watch another animated film for about 4 years. And I am now very conscious of going to watch animated films because that was horrendous. I literally flew out the cinema doors as soon as the film ended. I'm at home. Didn't take away from loving the film. This just has scarred me on a viewing experience. I think the next one I saw was Toy Story 4, which doesn't really count because it's Toy Story. That I'd have fought children to get into that. But Onward, I saw at the cinema, and that was the last one pre-COVID. I was by myself, but I wouldn't go. And I love going to the cinema by myself. I won't go and watch animated films. So I've got a debate for Hoppers on the 28th of February, which by the time this video comes up, there'll already be a little spoiler-free Hoppers review. But yeah, there's my embarrassing story. What about you two?
You want to go, Paul? I go. Yeah.
Mine's boring.
Mine's actually a bit like I never even saw it in the cinema. I was 18 when this came out, and I saw a little bit of the trailer. I remember seeing it and just thinking, like that's the animation style and everything. I was like, oh, it's kids Pixar. I won't bother. And then like obviously it comes out, everyone starts saying it's the best animated film ever made, and I was like, oh, I'll give it a go. Why not? And then I was like, well, yeah, that's incredible. 5 minutes in, I was like, oh yeah, I was so wrong.
Mine was even more basic. Just an afternoon, me and the missus went to go watch it, and I had a little cry. That was about it. I did have a similar situation to you with Wreck-It Ralph, where I did, unfortunately, I was like, see this in the afternoon, I'll be the only person. And then there was lots of families, and I was like, oh no, I look like an aunt.
You lose your peace as well. Like when it's a cinema that's always empty at those times, and you just didn't realise it's the summer holidays. That's what.
But yeah,
but
no.
you know,
Inside Out, just no dramas. Just went to go see it, enjoyed it.
lovely. And I think following that as well, obviously we've had a sequel. There's talk of a third one. It's safe to say it has become. Oh, I don't want to say that it's become an IP because it sounds so corporate, but it's become one of Pixar's biggest films. The kids love it, adults love it. It's very upfront on their marketing. I mean, we spoke a little bit about Cars already, right? I mean, the Mundo Pixar event that's just opened in London, which was really fun. I think on the marketing, there's 5 characters and 5 boxes being used, and it's Toy Story, Inside Out, Cars, Nemo, and Monsters Inc. I think, and you're starting to realize now that okay, we had so many great ones in our childhoods, but they have made some great films since. But I don't think as many of them have had the impact and the long-term impact that some have. However, Inside Out is 100% one of those. And Cars is unfortunately one of those for the generation below us, which is just weird. It's just something I don't understand. Like I've spoken to enough Cars fans. My brain still can't wrap around it. Like I won't get into the lore of Cars, but I it doesn't feel like Pixar, and I think that's what makes it a bit more frustrating. Is that it just someone somewhere could have done the film Cars any time of their life, and it's the Disney juggernaut that made Cars, I think, what it is, without that being its own little thing.
Yeah, I think the memes carried it as well, didn't they? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Those piston cup memes, they're good memes, to be honest. I do really enjoy them, but they were absolutely rife a few years ago, weren't they?
I just feel like it lacks the, I feel like all the Pixars, the good ones, have really basic, like, what if your toys were alive? Well, we'll go see a film about that. What happens to bugs? That's an interesting thing. Monsters aren't bad. They're just working. That's interesting. There's a great big ocean out there. That's interesting. Superheroes are people too. These are all great things, and Inside Out is what's happening in your head. Like, that's like, I'm there. I'm on board with it. Cars is like, what if cars were people? What do you mean? What if cars were people? That would be weird. And also, I just feel like it. I'm going to sag off. Sorry, Jed. Just the minute you start to think about it, you're like, this makes no fucking sense, though. Like, but all the buildings look like human buildings. Like, they're not really adapted for
post 9/11. Post 9/11 airport security in Cars 2.
Why is there a Pope?
There's Prince William. It's a good thing Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, isn't it?
How do cars get born?
That's in a different prequel.
They do try and fuck in Cars, don't they? So
it's just I don't know. It just doesn't work for me in that way where it's just a simple premise that you're like, that's intriguing. I'm there. What if a rat was a chef? I don't know. What if a rat was a chef? That kind of thing of like, I don't know. It just, and that's why I feel like Inside Out for me is like the last time where I was like, this feels like vintage Pixar. This feels like you got a good premise, you got some good voice actors, you got some lovely ideas. It just, this is when you see a Pixar, this is what I expect.
I think the genius of it as well is their best stories are the ones where you go, how has no one thought of that before?
Yeah.
And then they do it.
And this is it.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
I mean, if we talk some behind the scenes, because I love finding out some of these ideas. I mean, you've got the famous lunch break of 1994 where they planned like 10 years of films on their lunch, which don't know how they did that, but they did, and they're all great films. Pete Docter came up with this concept back in 2009, and you guys just nailed on the head. How did they come up with these ideas? He just noticed that his daughter was changing mannerisms and wondered internally what's going on inside her head. And then he realized there's a film. That's a film. That could be a film. There's a concept for a film. All that just because his daughter was a little bit quieter or was maybe had a bit more attitude and whatnot. And I love the simplicity of something such as that when people talk about these great Hollywood epics and films they've planned for decades and decades and decades, Sometimes all it is a thought in the shower, and that's enough to run off. And in this case, it's something so simple as that. Maybe other people had thought of something before to try to make something about the side, what goes on within people's minds. I don't mean like a mental health type thing, but I mean a literal. Your brain is almost an engine, or your mind is an engine for how the person's going to be and is. And this film ended up becoming one hell of a challenge to make, which I didn't know about, because I think sometimes when you see a great film, you just assume that every film went hunky-dory, that it was all really good, really fascinating. They did a bit of research, so they worked with psychologists and specialists, which I think is quite extreme, but very fair. Even for the DNA strands and for the brain, for people to look at as how could we turn this into something visual for these characters to go on this adventure with. Never thought about anything such as that, but obviously the animators covered the base with this. And where I'm kind of going to go with this, which is a big plot point, not a plot point, a big character moment, and without sounding like I'm jumping too far ahead, 2 years into the production, I don't know if any of you guys know this, Theo was originally going to be the sort of second lead with Joy. They swapped Theo with Sadness because the film wasn't working, and they swapped them over, and then it clicked. And that threw me a little bit, because maybe I'm a little bit older and I'm a bit more depressed at this age than when I was younger, but Sadness is more of a fundamental to go with the joy I feel, and fear, path to the dark side, etc. I just couldn't wrap my head around fear being the second lead. I mean, are you guys with me on that, or did you know anything about it? Because I knew next to nothing about the making of this film.
No, I didn't know that at all. It works so well as a two-hander with Sadness, and I think that's because when the film starts, you see joy and you don't think anything's going to change. I think like the beauty of what they do is it's, their whole thing, isn't it? Pixar's whole thing is two like films are running parallel, right? One for adults and one for kids, but nothing does it better than Inside Out. But I don't think it would be the same if it was Fear, because it doesn't evoke the same. I feel like lots of kids are fearless, but they do get sad. So I do think. I have a 6-week-old baby. I can't really talk yet, but I can hear him crying right now. So he's definitely a bit sad.
Yeah. I mean, I now have a 7-year-old, and I think it is that kind of thing of one of the first things you notice. I mean, babies do cry, but it's not out of sadness. It's them telling you something. Like when they cry, it's, I am hungry, I need changing, I am in pain. Whereas what they do feel almost immediately is joy, because the minute they see mum or dad, they smile. Like one of the first things they learn to do, and you clock it very early, is that they learn to smile. So it does feel like that, and it feels like the progression of emotions is then you do start to feel sadness, and then as you hit puberty, I think you do start to feel sadness a lot more as the hormones change. Whereas fear, I feel like you do have fear because you fear, all kids are scared of something, but I just feel like it's not a really, unless you have a really bad childhood, it's not a really constant emotion. Whereas I feel like when you're a kid, you do flip between joy and sadness a lot more. And then the other emotions that you feel, I feel like disgust is one that is a bit weird that it's so prominent, because I feel like you would feel other stuff more than you'd feel disgust. But you do flip between joy and sadness as a kid, like you're in that kind of binary, and then every so often anger comes in, or fear. So I feel like to make the second lead fear would be very strange. I mean, Pixar does do like buddy films very well. I think all of their strongest works are almost two-handed. You think about Toy Story, think about Finding Nemo, Monsters Inc., Up, even Cars. They are, it's
not Cars 2.
Sorry, not Cars 2. Sorry, Jed. But like, they are kind of two people on a journey, so it kind of makes sense that you'd have two. But yeah, fear's a weird one. I can't imagine the film having as much emotional resonance with fear.
Yeah, I guess the reason it didn't work for them when they were doing it as well is because like joy and fear the things that bring you joy can't also bring you fear, but the things that bring you joy can bring you sadness, right? So that's how they weaved the story and got to the end, which is why we love it. So that they obviously, when they figured it out, they must have been a great moment for the Inside Out people in their heads, I guess.
Yeah. And they had to go to John Lasseter for approval on that, which I thought was interesting, that he at this point in time is the head of Disney Animation, not just Pixar. So obviously Pete Docter's been somewhat left alone to make the film he wants to make. There are varying stories about what happens next. I've not actually put them on the schedule, but it's safe to say they went through many different types of plot, and those original story concepts are not available, which is really frustrating because it claims there were 10 different original plot points. But the definition of what a plot point is remains a mystery, because is that 10 different Rileys in the context of what's the child story going to be? Or is it internally which emotions are going to be going against each other? But whatever they decided, whatever they wrote in their groups with the actors, which I'll get to in a little bit too, the outcome of this film is quite remarkable. And I'm kind of really excited to see Inside Out 2 now as well, because I've only seen it once at the cinema when it came out. I've not gone back to it since. And the anxiety is obviously the big talking point, even at the Pixar event in London. Anxiety is sat there at the front with sadness and joy. There's no anger, which I was actually said to the guy in the room, where's anger? Because going off what you two said as well, I mean, I don't have a baby. I've got a niece on the way who, when this video goes up, will be due in 3 weeks and a day. So I'm going to start to get a little bit of that. I'm obviously not going to get the hardest amount. I'm not going to raise the child, but I will be swinging by, to provide it with the right gifts and the right things. The fun uncle is my only objective at this point in time in my life. But talking a little bit more with this, I want to talk the animation itself. So we are in 2015. We are 15 episodes into the series, and every week we come on and we talk about how incredible the quality of the animation is. And I'm not skipping a section because it's the animated film. We have to discuss this. The animation in this one, and I'm really curious at saying this actually. At the time of recording, the Toy Story 5 trailer dropped tonight. Did you both see it? It's not the quality of animation in that trailer scared me, because those toys looked real, not like live action, but they don't like toys anymore, right? And that's not a criticism, but it could be viewed upon one. But I was watching this trailer earlier, like, oh my words, it looked perfect in Toy Story 3. It still looked perfect in Toy Story 1 and 2. How have they got here? And Inside Out, the last film we did was Monsters University. And I didn't mind it, Monsters University. It was better than I remember it being, which I'll take as a win. But this is another level. And what the animators are able to do with the environments they create, the sets they're building, I'm not making them physically, but like within obviously the computers, just the concept of taking the mind and turning that into a location for a story to take place, taking fundamental parts of your life, like forgotten memories, what happens to them, core memories, which is a meme thing now because of this film, which I didn't know until yesterday, and that made me feel really old. Core memories have apparently been a thing since 2015. What do you guys think about the concept of this and how they made it work? Because I do think this makes it one of their strongest films, honestly, even without the story and without anything else. It just works, and there's something that clicks that I can't put my hand on. Yeah,
for me, it is their strongest film. I think it's the best. Like, I'll stand up. I think it's the best Pixar film. I don't think that's a revolutionary thing to say, to be fair, but it's my favorite, and I think the reason is that it plays so well. I mean, it plays so well over time, but I think it can play so well for you at any age. Like, obviously, I was 18. I wasn't a kid when it came out, but obviously, you think about the things that bring you joy and sadness and anger and things like that as you're watching the film. And like, I'm a brand new dad now, and like, I rewatched it yesterday for this, and I've already sort of got a completely different lens on it, which is obviously quite strange. Quite strange at like 29. But yeah, I think it's just like harping back to what we said, just in terms of like, I think the reason it works is because it's their best effort at running two films at once. Like, that's their thing. But the film that's going on in the background for adults, like the little snippets we do get with the mum and the dad. I know, Paul, you're talking about it before we jumped on about the different lead emotions in the mum's and the dad's head. There's something in there for everyone to grasp onto, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the best Pixar's because I think it's such an interesting concept. And the thing about it that I think, I mean, this is obvious to say when you look at Pixar, but it's very well designed. Like the actual world of inside the head is just very cleverly designed, and I think that's its greatest strength.
It's even little things like when she's awake, the sky's blue. When she's asleep, it's like not black and white, but it's like dark, and they're so minor, and they make sense that you would need to consider that. And I love even the concepts of, you know, there's a TV show being made in house as like a map of the day. There's a newspaper which is the news about what's going on in her life at this point. It's these really minute details that I think add so much to the overall concept, the overall film, and where it goes. And kind of where I'm doing that, if we want to talk about some of the story and the core of the story itself, you've got two stories, right? You've got the story of what's going on with Riley, which is her parents are having her, they're moving from Minnesota to San Francisco. And I've not experienced that at not any age, but we moved when I was 7 years old. We moved 20 minutes away. I didn't change primary school. I went to a different secondary school, so I went through that not knowing anybody's stage. But a lot of people are in that boat because you're in year 7. And I think it's equally as important that they got the context of the story for what's going on in the real world, right? Versus the conflict of what's going on inside with joy, with sadness. And I think if you get the human story wrong, the film can't work. Even though it's not as important, and every time with Riley, you actually want to go back to the characters that you like, the emotions. But when you're with them, they in turn are affecting the story. And it's this sort of swings and roundabouts idea that, you know, when sadness touches something and then she gets sad, but it works in the context of why Riley's now sad because she's revisited a memory that was meant so much to her that she's now upset by. I just think it's genius. And that's such a ridiculous one word to use, but it's simplistic and it's most effective due to, and I can't wrap my head around a studio making something as effective as this, which is not a discredit to Pixar claiming they're dumb. I just think what they've been able to do, the concept of the mind as a film, I've just never seen elsewhere ever in any type of film, let alone an animated one for children.
Yeah, I think everything he said is completely right. I think as well, any film, any piece of art, anything that you could genuinely use to help teach kids to understand what they're feeling is just gold dust, right? I know, Paul, obviously you're a teacher. Like, do you see stuff through a different lens? Like when you're looking at the kids, do you think like, wow, there's inside out people in your head? Because it's something like you talk about the core memory thing being like a piece of like culture and a bit of a cultural impact thing. But like, I think about it all the time. Like sometimes I just look at the dog and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on in your head? You know, like, you think about it. You just think about it through the lens of like, how many inside out people have you got in your head pulling the strings? Because I bet it's not many.
Sometimes I look at my students and I think, your dominant emotion is fucking prick.
Yeah.
Didn't realise that was a dominant emotion, you turd. No, sometimes I actually do have to like be like, they're going through a change. They're going through a change. They're going through a change. Because sometimes I'm like, why are you being so bloody stroppy? And then I think, sadness has the control panel.
Yeah, exactly.
I think as well, it's such a great film because it also, when I watch it, I'm like, oh, I remember being like that. And then just that idea that the core memories eventually have to be touched with sadness because you're remembering something.
Yeah.
And it's just the idea that they get twinged with sadness and actually that's a good thing. I think that was where I was like, oh, this film is clever. As funny as it is, and all the stuff, I do find I like the bit where they're dreaming, and it's like an actual television studio, and once they go in front of the camera, it becomes the image, and I'm like, that is actually, again, I'm like, that's so bloody clever, and I like the idea of Fear staying up at night to watch it and just being like, boo, put someone else on.
It works so well, and this is it, and that's for what, a less than a 5-minute long scene, and they've put something like that when Pixar used to do shorts, or nowadays I guess you have to moan now all these Disney Plus series they do, which are sort of series but not series. It's very weird. They're doing this for a small part film, and if we talk about some of the characters properly, because I think that's kind of where we're leaning towards. It feels like we're flying, but I think because emotions are core of this episode, it's going to be a bit different. Let's talk Joy, voiced by Amy Poehler, who I have to say, I love Amy Poehler. It is my favorite sitcom of all time, Parks and Rec. I think it's the greatest sitcom of all time. And it used to be Friends. Friends is a close second. You won't find me going to McDonald's to buy Friends things, but I would if it was Parks and Rec. Which my body doesn't need to go to McDonald's, but there was a Ron Swanson adult Happy Meal. I'm in. And
just be
what would you say? What would you say to the person? Would you go up to the person and say, "Give me all of your bacon. Get all of your bacon. Put it on a plate and bring it to me."
They'd have to put him in the breakfast meal. Like it wouldn't work if it was a breakfast meal for him. But it's not just. So we spoke, and we've spoke so much in this series so far, right? The bringing in actors or celebrities as such to play these roles. Now, I'm going to be really open here. Amy Poehler, she is obviously much bigger in America than here in the UK. I think that's fair to say. SNL, obviously, we're just about to get here for the first time. Parks and Rec, I don't think it even aired here. Like, I remember when I watched it used to have to be illegal. But it was one of the best shows I ever discovered. And I had a little DVD box set and everything before. So she isn't as well known. Whereas last time we spoke about Brave, that you had Reese Witherspoon miscast, who was obviously didn't even make it in. That ended very quickly because she couldn't do a Scottish accent rather than casting the one Scottish film. And Amy Poehler in this is Joy, and I'm going to be honest. She's playing Leslie Knope. There's no problem with that. I'm not criticizing that. And what I loved, which I didn't know, when she came on board, she was the last of the emotions to be cast, which I also did not realize. She was the last to be cast, and she helped them rewrite her character. And I think that is something that needs to be celebrated and spoken about more. I'm not going to call her a bundle of joy because that's a cringe on her emotion. But, you know, when they've just nailed the cast, and we'll talk about this for probably all the core ones, every single role is nailed. And the use of sitcom actors is impeccable. I've got to add too. But the wildest thing, I'll say this where I hand over. I love Leslie Knope. But she was always that one character, right, where you'd get annoyed by, oh, she's so perfect, she's so this, she's so that. But that's why she worked, because the people that she was around in Parks and Recreation made her have more challenges as a character and to put her in different scenarios and take her out of them. Joy is very reminiscent of that, and it's the pairing up her with other characters, particularly Sadness, where you get this incredible juxtaposition, whether it be the voice actors or the story itself or the memories. It's her own character within a sentence, and the rest is history.
Yeah, had Amy Poehler done any voice acting before this? Do we know?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Obviously, like you say, it's basically. I mean, we're basically looking to Leslie Knope's head, aren't we? So, like, it obviously works because she's energy. I think, yeah, not to like flip straight away, but I think Phyllis Smith is probably the best piece of casting. I just think, like, obviously the voice is. I mean, you. I guess you wouldn't really know who she was. I didn't know who she was when I watched it. Do you know what I mean? You just hear the voice and you recognize the voice. It's one of those. She's one of those actors. But yeah, like you just said, the juxtaposition is obviously like that's what makes the film. They all have to be good voice actors, right? Which is tough to do because not all actors can do both. Right?
It is, yeah. With the voice acting, it is that you kind of want a voice that is recognizable but doesn't then dwarf the character. So it's a really tough one to do, and I think Pixar have consistently they've gotten famous actors, but they've gotten famous actors with kind of singular voices. They've never, I mean, later on we're gonna talk about further down the line, Chris Pratt, but earlier in the early days, Billy Crystal, iconic voice, perfect for that role, and juxtaposed perfectly with John Goodman. That's a great double act. Even I mean, rewatching A Bug's Life, and it's like, God, everyone in this is a sitcom actor, but it works. Ellen DeGeneres, it's like Ellen has a very iconic voice. Albert Brooks has a very iconic voice. Owen Wilson has a very iconic voice. And so, yeah, to get Amy Poehler makes perfect sense. And also because she could just imbue joy with this, almost on the verge of being like, God, shut up. Like when she's just so on it all the time, and you're like, if you didn't have that kind of residual goodwill, I think you'd lose it. But because you're like, do you like Leslie Knope though? And Phyllis Smith is another one as well. That character could get very annoying very quickly, because in a way, because they're meant to be a one note, one emotion character. And I mean, I really like Lewis Black as Anger, because I think that is a really clever casting as Anger. I think the 5 emotions are very well cast.
Yeah, I mean, Phyllis Smith. So I'd seen The Office, the US Office. I've got to clarify. So when I watched it, I was like, it's and I had this recently. So we did Monsters University last, and in that you've got Aubrey Plaza, and you've got John Krasinski, and I was like, contextual early 10s. You've got The Office US, Parks and Rec, same studio, same channel, and then you get to. Then I was thinking about Inside. I was like, hold on a minute. Then we get some bigger names from the next one, because Krasinski just sort of randomly cameos in Monsters Uni. It's really random at the start. It's just this one dude. Whereas obviously Aubrey Plaza is like a commentator, and it's really interesting that we spoke about that. Not that was pre-fame, but those 2 examples are much bigger in 2026 than 2012, because they were in those sitcoms, but they haven't really branched out. And in the 10 years since, they've obviously ended the shows they're in very successfully, gone on to have amazing careers elsewhere. And I'm looking at these where I'm not saying Amy Poehler's obviously not done anything since Parks and Rec. That's incredibly disrespectful. The same with Phyllis Smith, but their voices are iconic to their roles. But this has become their big thing since, that they were joy and they were sadness. And obviously we get a sequel. Those 2 return. Conversations we had about people who didn't return though. And another one, obviously, you mentioned him already, Anger by Lewis Black. I've never seen Lewis Black's comedy, but what I read was when they decided they wanted Anger as emotion, they joked that they'd love to get Lewis Black, and they literally got him. It was that simple. They sent him a package of DVDs and the post of all the Pixar films, and apparently he said something to them like, did they not think that I didn't know who they were? So there's great little stories that go with it, and I just think the 5 of them, as you said, Paul, it's so well done. You get the voices wrong and the film can't function. And kind of I'm going to go on this. Maybe it's a preamp for the sequel. I find it, and I've got to be careful how I say this. I find it incredibly disappointing that they couldn't make deals for Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader to come back. Now, I'm going to jump in with the obvious thing here. These actors are very well paid and they're very wealthy, and I understand that conversation. There are more important people who financially missed out on Inside Out 2, aka all the people they made redundant a month before the film came out, who didn't get a cut of the box office that, what, $1.8 billion did it make? It doesn't affect me watching this film. It doesn't affect the sequel on a watch. But it's a little bit disheartening when we're revisiting it now, thinking like, these guys didn't get to go and do their films together like the Toy Story cast. You kept 3 of them, and they were the 3 that they knew they would keep. Is that unfair of me to call out?
No, I think that's...
No, go on, Paul.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It just seems weird, because also they're like a little troupe of actors. Like, it just feels like, again, because you've cast sitcom actors, it felt like you're coming back for another season, and, you know, Aunt Viv is a completely different woman. You know, it's always, to be fair, that's the oldest staple in sitcoms, is that you come back for a season, it's like, this person's played by a different actor. Are we not going to address this? No, fair enough. Aunt Viv is just a completely different human now.
Just go along with it. Yeah, it is sad. I do have a feeling that, like, I do think that there's probably a lot of people that didn't notice.
I agree as well.
Like, I do think that's definitely a thing. Like, how closely are people paying that much attention to voice acting. I think like casting a voice actor is like, well, I'm glad like casting is an Oscar now, because like it's such a, casting anything is a great art, but like, because you don't, like you said, Paul, you don't want someone to be too recognizable, because then it takes you out of the film and you're like, oh man, that's exactly like, take Onward as an example, you're like, that's Chris Pratt. Whereas like when you hear these, you're like, oh, I've heard that before, I know that guy, but like to me he's fear, you know. I would say, obviously we know who Bill Hader is, lots of people know who Bill Hader is, but I would argue that lots of the audience for Inside Out probably didn't know who Bill Hader was at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
Agreed. And he's a supporting emotion, if you can call it that. Like, he's not the core too, is he? It's and Mindy Kaling as well. I like her. Again, another one from The Office, but we got a lot of Office, a lot of SNL alumni in this series. Another voice actor, one we haven't spoke about, who I'm going to give his own section, he deserves it. Richard Kind is in this film. Plays Bing Bong. Bing Bong's going to get his own segment. I mean, he always was. So what I didn't know until yesterday too, he was hidden from all the marketing. And I had to sit there thinking, I was like, what trailers do I remember? Because obviously it's 11 years ago. And I remember the main trailer, or the thing I feel like I kept seeing from the marketing, was the argument scene at dinner with the mom and dad. I think that was like the entirety of the marketing campaign, was that scene everywhere. And when Bing Bong appeared in the film, I just remember being like, oh, cool, like that was an imaginary friend. Like kids did that. I'm not going to lie, guys, I didn't. I'm not trying to one-up anyone. I didn't have an imaginary friend. But it's very common that children have them. And it would be so fitting that they would be a memory and they would be sort of lurking in the back of the head, literally in story where he is. Richard Kind's cropped up a lot in these Pixar films so far. I think before this, his most prominent role is probably Bug's Life, playing Kevin Spacey's brother in that film. And I like him. But I'm just going to say it now. I cried again watching this when Bing Bong died. And every time, that awkward cinema trip, I remember weeping tears. Like, and that's what set me off even worse, was that I just was weeping in an audience of children and adults about this pink fluffy creature that died. And I've now read that Richard Kind was crying delivering the lines, and that makes me want to cry as well. I think Paul's on the way to tears already.
Don't even get me started, honestly.
It's the genius of the character, because without jumping to his fate, he ends up forgotten, because eventually kids will forget about an invisible friend. And there's like a horror in that, which isn't intentional, but I think it's the emotional crux of the film. And if I'm really open, I always forget how late in the film it actually is when he goes. It is like one of the final scenes. You think it's like the halfway point, and it's, oh, you know, we got a bit sad, I moved on. It's like 10 minutes to go. I love Bing Bong. His place in Pixar history is cemented, and I feel like everyone cries when Bing Bong dies. I could be wrong. This is where you laugh at me.
No, I honestly agree. I think it's the moment where the film goes from like 4 stars to 5. I think it goes from this, where it goes like, oh wow, this is like one of the like best animated films I've ever seen, or one of the best films you've ever seen. Yeah, I didn't have an imaginary friend, but I feel like the character of Bing Bong, no matter what, it's going to evoke something in someone. So like, even if it's not an imaginary friend, like everyone played with toys and animated the toys. Do you know what I mean? Obviously that's from Toy Story, but like you're always thinking about the character. Like, again, it might unlock a little bit of a weird memory that you have about, you know, a Star Wars. I remember like playing with Star Wars toys when I was a kid, and like animating the stormtroopers and giving them their own personalities and things like that. And like, you know, where are they now? Who knows? Like somewhere,
sunny side, yeah, living their best life. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember if it was sad, very on brand. I don't remember if I had an imaginary friend. I probably did, but it's just that thing of Richard Kind is perfectly cast, because it's a very iconic voice, and it's just, I don't know, there's a warmth to it, but there's also a slight annoying tone to it at the beginning where you're like, God, this guy's getting on my tits. Like, and you are a bit like, you're kind of holding joy and sadness up there. You actually, kind of need to get somewhere, Bing Bong. Can you stop being a pain in the ass? But that sequence when they're in the memory pit and they have to make it fly, and he realizes that he can't go with them is, I would say it's weapons grade emotional. It's up there with the opening of Up. It's up there with the incinerator in Toy Story 3. It's up there with When She Loved Me from Toy Story 2. It's like horrific. And I think it's given a weight to it, and that kind of thing of he's made up his mind that he's gonna have to stay behind for the greater good of Riley, and even Joy realizing that he's not going is really, it's just very affecting. It's very well done, and Richard Kind's voice, when he's saying bye and to take care of Riley for him, is just like, Jesus Christ. Like, whenever I rewatch it, when that bit comes, I'm like, Jesus, this is not fair, guys. I came for a fun little animated movie, and I'm in absolute hell.
I think as well, something that hasn't changed it for me, as I've got older, I've seen more Richard Kind projects. Like, he's in a lot of things. He's been credited in hundreds of stuff, but he's in Curb Your Enthusiasm a lot, and that's I think one of the many great sitcoms. But he has this persona and a presence, and it's so interesting to see in a voice role, because again, he's not recognizable to the average general audience, is the right word. And I think it's the innocence of the giant pink elephant designer. And I remember, I don't know if anyone else had this, or maybe I'm just a sicko. The first ever time I watched that film, I thought, could this guy be like a villain? Because he's leading them to the wrong places. And what's Pixar done before? Oh, we've had the big cuddly bear from Toy Story 3, psycho villain. We've had the explorer from Up, psycho villain. And Pixar has a habit of throwing in an antagonist because film needs antagonist. And in Monsters University, you actually really criticize the film. It doesn't have an antagonist, but Monsters is the kind of film he should. Inside Out, I'm sat there thinking, who's going to be the villain? And this is the one film that didn't need one. And they didn't have one in the end. And I love that Bing Bong does become this symbol. And it's really dark, as you said, Paul. Like, he's being murdered, like not murdered. He's fading away into non-existence.
I think it's the fading really away heavy. That does it worst. That it
how did it pass BBFC?
You just become nothing. Also, he's kind of a pathetic character that he's kind of that, almost like a comedian who's not funny, or the person that's, outstayed their welcome, and he's just kind of there getting in the way, and you pity them, and then you're like, oh, they just care. And yeah, it is a really, really, I mean, and also it comes in that section of the film where it just goes from like one sad thing to another. Riley runs away from home. Her memories are collapsing. It's like, Jesus, guys, this is a film aimed at children. Jesus Christ! Like, honestly, whenever I rewatch it, I am just like, this is really, really too much. And then, yeah, you just see him. Do you know what it is? It's that resigned smile that he's decided his fate, and he's like, take care of it. I'm like, fucking hell.
I think you add in the singing as well, because I was listening to the soundtrack, and I will get to it shortly later. I was like, I wonder what the score is for that part, and then I kept going back on the soundtrack on Spotify, like, what's Bing Bong's death? And not that Michael Giacchino needed to live a married life, but there isn't one, and you realize, yes, because the two of them are singing the entire time. Like, the intensity of the song gets more and more and more and more, and then that adds to the sadness of him going, which is. It's quite something. And again, it's in a film you wouldn't maybe expect it in, when you think what you said earlier, Theo. When this film was initially coming out, there was this just sudden wave of this. I don't know if it premiered at Cannes, but it just felt like it was everywhere. Like, this is one of the best animated films ever. 5-star reviews everywhere. Everyone was raving. Turns out it was really good, and I was so intrigued because of what I've been reading about it. Whereas it could have very typically been not just a Disney film, like a preschool film, like, oh, look, different colors, different emotions, different attitudes, when it wasn't. And I'd be so intrigued to speak to a child from like that generation that saw this at a young age. Like, even my youngest cousins would have been 10 and 8 when this came out. Like, I would be curious at, sounds really weird, how we spoke about Toy Story and Bugs Life when we were like 3-4 years old. When that age group are older, I'd be so curious at their thoughts on something like this. Because is it to them they watch it one day when they're older and suddenly there's a different meaning?
I guess they sort of answered that. They answered that by turning up for Inside Out 2, right?
Yeah. Exactly. More than it
was the highest grossing anime film, but like, yeah, like there's obviously so much love there, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's talk the score. So Michael Giacchino composed this. This is his 5th, I believe, Pixar film. And if you didn't know how busy Michael Giacchino is at this point in time, this is 2015. He is working on 3 films at the same time: Inside Out, Tomorrowland, Jurassic World. What a reminder, by the way, 2015 was an unbelievable year for film, because that's just bringing back memories of the summer and this channel's inception as well around that time. Because I remember, I think Jurassic World was maybe our 2nd or 3rd of the video. Different era, different times. But I love the score for this. However, listening to the score back, I'm not going to disrespect his work by saying it's a great theme, but there's not as many individual songs that I remember, but just the core essence of the music to this is really impactful. And it's that I'm rubbish of instruments. This is the sad part of me, like in soundtracks, is I know nothing about music to elongate or develop those thoughts. But the sort of the opening 7-8 minutes where it's like becomes the Inside Out theme that we know and have seen over the years. Even at that Pixar event in London, you go into the Inside Out and it's the control room. You go through a curtain and they're playing the music and there's all the memories on the wall. And it's very emotional, like when you go in there, without that sounding strange. I think the score is fantastic. And I think, unfortunately for Michael Giacchino, having made one of the best ever Pixar scores of Up, it's so easy to do a film that again, and also to go the opposite way of, I need to create something emotional. How do I do something emotional when I've done something like Up before? He goes and really plays the mindset, and sadness has got like sad trombone and anger's got like a higher tempo. And I love his approach to the music, and the characters have their own little things. And I'm just a massive Giacchino fan, so I'm going to hand over to see what you guys think of the score.
Yeah, I mean, he's one thing we know about Mike is he loves to work.
Yeah.
he never stops. He's everywhere. No, I really like. I think it's simple, like you say. Maybe not as like well known or universally loved as the others, but I think the clever thing is like what the kids love, which is the same thing over and over again. So that little just beat where it's like dun dun dun, dun, like that's just like ticking in your head the whole time, and like I think that's really clever.
Yeah, I think it's just very simple, and I think that's what works, is that you just hear it, and then he lays it down, and then he increases it. There's a bit more orchestration. It comes into play when things get too intense. It then comes in. It's slightly different. He's very good at having a theme and then being like, okay, now if we do this with the theme, and now if we do that with the theme, and what if, the emotion, the theme's there. What if this emotion is now the theme is this with this emotion? I think it just works really well. And I think it's one of those ones where when you hear that little theme, you are like, yep, I'm back. I'm back in Inside Out. You only have to hear it on, a TikTok video, and you're like, Jesus Christ, no, it's happening again. I'm having bing bong memories again.
I mean, we went to an event last year. It was just, this is what it's like, right? So he's recording Fantastic Four in London at Abbey Road. I'm just going to do a random Q&A one Saturday evening at a record shop nearby, just because I can. So the man doesn't want rest. He played us a song in advance of the score, which was really cool. But he actually spoke at that event saying the proudest moment no, not proudest moment. He says he knew he'd made it when he went into Disneyland and they were playing his music. And he said that was the most surreal experience of his life. Because I think he's a proper, not really us, because we're not American. I think people that are probably like from LA, California, probably got to go to Disney a lot more than we did. It's probably fair to say. Obviously, the generation below us, they're going to get Universal here. They're going to have a good time. I'm going to probably go there a lot too, presuming it's as good as they have made their most recent parks in Florida. But it's like going into a theme park and someone's playing your music. Okay, that was Up. But he's going to go into a theme park now, and they're playing like The Incredibles. They're playing Up. They're playing Inside Out. They're playing Star Wars and loads of other stuff he's done. He's just an absolute, I think, legend of cinema, and he's one of my favorite composers for many reasons. And that kind of leads into something that's going to surprise me, the legacy of this film. This was only nominated for 2 Oscars, and I'm actually quite appalled at that. I do not remember this, which is incredibly strange to say. It was only nominated for original screenplay and animated film. So obviously it won animated film. I am gobsmacked this wasn't nominated for best film that year. And I was so angry, I went and looked at who else was nominated. And I'm not
Pretty
as angry as I was.
stacked,
It's a stacked year. For anyone that wants to know, Spotlight won Best Picture. You've got The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max Fury Road, The Martian, The Revenant, Room. I'm going to be really...
it's a stat year, guys.
Yeah.
That's a stat year. What'd you get rid of? What'd you get rid of?
Well, there was only 8, right? That was before, if they'd made it 10 that year, but because this was before they'd made it 10. Was it 10?
No, this was the ridiculous... No, it was the ridiculous...
That was the year where it was like, 10. It could be 10, yeah.
I don't know what logic they use for that. It's ridiculous. Like,
it only lasted 1 year, didn't it? But yeah.
I thought it lasted like 12 years.
Oh, did it? Because they went from 5... Oh, after The Dark Knight, they went from 5, and then they were like, it could be up to 10. But it always ended up around 8 or 9, didn't it?
But I don't understand them. And the problem is, right, and this sounds really... I know it's off point, but F1's been nominated for Best Film, which is laughable. Yeah, so I've looked at this year, like there's 10 nominees, and I'm just sat there like, not you, F1. And then I was sat there like, oh no, if it was the old between 5 and 10, F1's not getting that nomination. But then it's a broken metric, because how are they deciding on what's between 5 and 10? That's what I never liked. And then I look at something like Inside Out, like surely this would have been high up on the ballots. Like if it got an original screenplay nomination, that's the old classic, we're not giving you a best film nomination, but you did very well.
I mean, to get a screenplay nomination back then is pretty good for an animated film like that. I mean, it was only Up before, right, that had probably made it in.
Up had a nomination, I think, potentially Finding Nemo, and did Toy Story get an adapted? I could be wrong. Screenplay.
Was Up the only one that's got into Best Picture?
Up is the only Up and Toy Story 3 the only Pixar's in Best Picture. Beauty and the Beast is the only other animated film aside from them two, which I still find crazy. That there's only been 3 animated films in 98 years nominated for Best Film at the Oscars, and I just can't wrap my head around Inside Out. And for some reason, I then thought Inside Out 2 got a nomination as Best Film, but it didn't either. I thought it was the old classic. We didn't do the original, so you can have your flowers 10 years later, but it didn't happen either. But I know it's hearsay to moan, right? The quality of a film isn't indicative of the Oscars, but for films that had that immediate impact as this, I think looking back, it is one that it was a stacked year, but this still should have been there. And
Shrek had an adapted screenplay nomination.
Oh, really?
Shrek had one. Yeah, Shrek 1 had it, because it's based on a book, isn't it?
Is it? No.
Toy Story, so Shrek, Toy Story 3.
Because Shrek's taken from all of the fairy tales, right? So it has to be.
Yeah, that's true. Yes,
it's a children. It is a children's book as well.
What, Shrek in itself?
Yeah, Shrek in itself is a children's book.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Those are the only 2 adapted screenplay animated films, and then original. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through to see. But those are the only 2 I can see, unless I've missed one. Toy Story was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Then it goes. Finding Nemo was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Wall-E was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Ratatouille was nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
Oh, so they had a good run.
Up was nominated for Best Original Screenplay.
That's like the closest we'll let you have to a best film nomination.
Crazy.
Isn't
So
it?
out of all of
Inside
those,
Out.
the only one that got in. Wow. To best picture.
Yeah, and I'm shocked that Ratatouille got in. Yeah, the last animated film to be nominated for best original screenplay was Inside Out. But it's Pixar. It's Inside Out, Up, Wall-E, Ratatouille, Finding Nemo. Oh, The Incredibles. Sorry, The Incredibles was nominated for best
Incredibles
original
as well.
screenplay.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, generational run. They're like Michael Jordan, you know, flying.
Every year
you're
we'll get a
looking
screenplay nomination. Nothing more.
Yeah, damn right. Got a monopoly.
you're
on it.
looking
I
at,
bet
like,
I bet how
what's
many of
that?
those did they win though? Zero.
No.
I would
Yeah.
You're still looking at Toy Story, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Wall-E, Up, Inside Out, and then Toy Story 3 nominated. So you're looking at 8 nominations for writing.
Out of 15 films at this point in time, that's almost one every 2.
None
that
for
is remarkable.
Cars. Sorry, Jed.
Wow, Cars 2 was the first Pixar film to never be nominated for an Oscar. Record breaker. Second, Monsters University. Third, probably next week, The Good Dinosaur. But even in its box office, it would do very well financially. It would gross $858 million off a $200 million budget. No, I got that wrong. Off a $175 million budget, the 7th highest grossing film of 2015. And if anyone's curious as to what films came out in 2015, you got Star Wars 7 that grossed $2 billion, Fast and Furious 7 that grossed $1.7 billion, Jurassic World $1.7 billion, Avengers: Age of Ultron $1.4 billion, even Minions did $1.1 billion. So we're starting to enter that outrageous mid-tens Disney. Every film's making $1 billion everywhere. Reality.
You charge 15 quid a ticket. Of course, it makes a fucking $1 billion. You only got to get fucking 100 people to see it, and you've made a bloody profit.
Not these days.
Plus, you whack it in the shitty 3D. Of course, you're going to make a profit.
Wow. I was going to say the old 3D pricing mechanism was always an interesting one.
Yeah,
and you need
very,
glasses
very
with
well,
that.
sir.
But it's safe to say this one's a bit of a legacy.
Out of it.
And what I want to ask you both before we head into final thoughts and favourite scene, and this is genuinely me putting you on the spot, and I know I've mentioned it teaser earlier. Looking at the legacy of this film, and this is a Pixar retrospective, right? So we've been very restricted to Pixar up to this point. Genuinely, is this the best animated film ever made? Because
no.
You're going to say The Lion King.
Of course I'm going to fucking say The Lion King.
That's fair. Okay.
It's the best.
Of course I'm going to say The Lion King. Of course I'm going to say The Lion King. Of course I'm going to fucking say The Lion King.
Is it? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you put me on the spot. Maybe, yeah. Like, I mean, the first Spider-Verse is a real contender for me there, to be honest. But does it hit me like Inside Out? Probably not. Inside Out, maybe it is the best animated film ever made. It's certainly up there. I could guess.
Oh no, it's up there. I would say it's top 10, but like, I don't know, because innovation-wise, Toy Story, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it's like none of those are making me cry as an adult, though. Like, I'll be honest, I never really cared too much for The Lion King. All right, whatever, he dies, cool. Like, you know, like I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong, and I know everyone loves it. I get it. I do think it's good, but I don't cry at The Lion King like I cried at Inside Out. I would say, to be honest.
No.
I think that's fair. I think you're right. Like in the conversation topic, it's probably in a top 10, isn't it? Like if there was ever a top 10 list of best animated films, this is in there.
Pound for pound, obviously, people would say The Lion King was absolutely groundbreaking, and I think that's absolutely fair enough.
I gotta say, if this at the end when we're doing our top 10, if this doesn't crack top 5, I will be fucking shocked. I will be very shocked if this isn't top 5 material, because
I agree.
It is a triumph. It is a triumph of voice, of animation, of storytelling, of direction, of score, of like just the storytelling alone, just the design of it. You know, even just the little islands, the bit where they go into the weird concept bit where they just become abstract colors is so weird. The train of thought, like that's such a genius idea. The train of thought.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl did that.
Dream, 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 dream.
I had the 3D DVD of that, to be honest. No lie.
Shark Boy and
the
Lava
little
Girl.
3D glasses that came with it as well to watch it in 3D.
I must have watched that 50 million times, but
And then you watched Twilight.
You are.
You watched Twilight after, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's Shark Boy."
Yeah, I'd have been like,
Shark Boy.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. It does break the barrier, though, right? When people talk about Pixar films, they're always like, "Oh, that's such a good Pixar film." Whereas, like for Inside Out, I think people just say that's just such a good film. And, like, it reaches
one of the
higher.
ones as well that sort of goes beyond. You know, like Monsters University is fine. Kids will enjoy that. Cars, sorry, Jed, is fine. Kids will enjoy that. But then you get things like Up and Inside Out, where you're like, kids will enjoy it on a base level of this is a good film. But then when you're older, you're like, that's actually very clever. That's very, very clever. Even just the whole recurrent thing about that random song that gets stuck in your head, and it's that bloody chewing gum song. And what's hilarious is it then actually gets stuck in your head. That is the most maddening thing. I'm like, you absolute bastards.
I love the joke where I don't know what they're called, the people in the brain, but they're like, oh yeah, sometimes we just send it up there to spite them, to annoy them. And it's like when a song comes back in your head that you hate, it is that mindset of, where did this come from? Why am I thinking about this?
Why have I done that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting, and it raises a question. If we kind of talk some any favorite scenes or anything no one spoke about yet, if I'm doing my favorite scene from the film, it sounds really horrible to say it's my favorite scene. It is Bing Bong's death. I think, Theo, you mentioned earlier, Bing Bong's death is what elevates this from a 4-star film to a 5-star film. That is the key sequence there. If you take that out and they just find a way up to, it's like, oh, this was a really cool content, this was really good, but there is something about Bing Bong, and I think, again, to hide him from the marketing, not that you can remember marketing now compared to then. He's not on the posters. He's nowhere, and he just pops up in this film, sits with you, goes on the journey, disappears, job done. We're all crying. Sorted. Favorite scene for me. And I will give a massive shout out. I love the opening. Introduce the emotions one by one as they come in. I think it's a lot of fun. And that has you thinking from the first moment about the concept of the mind and how young you are with the process of it too.
Yeah, obviously that's a great choice. I really like the scene between the mum and dad when it's jumping from one head to another, and then it ends with the Brazilian helicopter pilot. That's so
come fly with me.
I didn't watch it in a full cinema, but I can just imagine there was so many people in that full cinema just like looking at the floor and being like, oh.
They changed the image based on what country you're in. So in the UK version, when it cuts to the dad, they're watching a football game. So apparently in some countries it's hockey. So it depends what region you're in, got different programming. Because we've all had that, right, where someone's talking to us and you are thinking about something else.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've lost count. It could be anything. I've lost count the amount of times, like in a pub or something like that. It could be Burnley, Southampton. I couldn't care less. But if it was 50 yards away in the corner of the pub, I'd be like slowly looking, like.
I think for me it's similar to that. But it's the fact it's when obviously joy and sadness aren't there, and then disgust, fear, and anger are trying to hold the conversation. And anger's like, don't worry, I've got this. Fine, Dad. It's just so funny. I'm just like, that is actually very well observed. I also do like the end credit sequence when she says hi to a boy and it cuts to the boy's head and it's just alarms going off and they're all running around. I'm like, that is also very accurate.
There's so many great, and that's it. It's even those little moments like have a big impact without it being core to the story. And with that, heading to final thoughts, I feel like I've got this one butchered up because my final thoughts were pretty much said 5 minutes ago. I think this is one of the best animated films ever made. It's easy to say that, and in the context of a Pixar series, I liked Brave. I had a great discussion on that film. I didn't see it at the cinema. I obviously didn't see Monsters Uni at the cinema. But to get, I would call this one of the heavyweights of the series out the way, that we've gone through this incredible opening 11 films by Cars. and be heading into a somewhat not lessening era, but you're heading into a more Disney now owned Pixar, so the films coming out are maybe more commercially driven than artistically driven. Loads of those original story concepts were all made in the noughties by that original creative team, and we're going to see changes along the way. This feels like that sort of big triumph of the 2010s for Pixar, this film, like in the context of the series. Of course, you've got stuff like Coco. Technically, Toy Story 3 is the same decade, but something about Inside Out that I don't think the studio have been able to get past. And I don't mean that disrespectfully either. It's so good. It feels like it's Finding Nemo. Like, now what do you do? Like, you've had another one of them incredible, as you said earlier, Paul, another incredible but simple concept. When's the next one going to come? Because they haven't really done it since. I mean, I loved Elemental with the preview for Down the Line, but Elemental's kind of what happens if we cross Romeo and Juliet with Inside Out. That's how I looked at it. Like, it's not emotions, it's elements. And Inside Out's this huge obstacle. And I think there's a reason why they're doing a third one. God knows when that'll be, but they're going to do one. And I'm very intrigued as to what age they want to put Riley and what new characters may be in play.
Horny.
Yeah.
That'll be the emotion.
First 12 Pixar film.
Yeah, they definitely. The thing is, they can keep banging the simplistic drum with this and come out with so much good stuff. Like, not to do Inside Out 2 already, but just think of a few things in there, like the sarcasm in Inside Out 2, and you just think that's just the most genius thing I've ever heard in my life. Like that, like as Riley gets older, if they carry on doing that, then they're only gonna get more and more people on board and being like, oh yeah, that's so right. That's exactly what we go through.
They should make her pregnant in Inside Out 3, and they should make it a David Lynch film where she has baby brain, and they're just stuck in some weird infinite loop of doing stuff without realizing. They should go fucking nuts.
They should go Twin Peaks into brain.
Yeah, and then they're just like, wait, weren't we already here? And then it just cuts without telling, and then like half the film's already gone, and they're like, how'd we get here? And it's just like, you got baby brain. You got baby brain, Riley. You don't remember jack shit because you got baby brain. But yeah, it's fucking great. This film is great. Sequel. Didn't need it.
We'll get to that in 10 years' time, 9 years' time after 2015. 2024 it came out. I still remember seeing that cinema. That was a wild experience.
That one felt good. Not to do that episode, but that one, as opposed to this, which felt kind of universal, that one felt like they were like, people in their 20s really like Pixar films. Let's get Maya Hawke to play Anxiety.
Best casting, though.
Yeah, the thing is, it absolutely is. They suckered me right in. I love that.
Yeah, see, there we go. That's what it felt like. It felt like they were like, right, new emotion, that's the main character, Anxiety, and it's voiced by Maya Hawke. And everyone was like, you really want them fucking film nerds on Twitter to have a circle jerk around your movie, don't you? Yes, I do, actually. Yeah.
I mean, that being said, without me theorizing like it's a Star Wars video, and without the Twin Peaks bit, legitimately, what emotion and what actor? I'm saying this out loud. I've got no idea what emotion and what actor should be in the third film. And I'll leave this before we head into the outro because I'm sat there like, would grief be too depressing for a Pixar film? Like they kind of did.
Jesus Christ!
By grief.
Jesus.
I'm just sat there like I'm trying to think of a voice actor or an actor that I could match to an emotion, and I'm sat there like
grief could be Sam Elliott. That would be good. Just like really
sad.
Low tone, just like
I've come in here because your father has passed away. I don't know what it sounds like.
My grandparents for teenagers, fine. But this is it. Like they haven't really done an older emotion which could work as well. I not thought of that.
They had that little joke about nostalgia, and it was June Squibb, which was possibly the funniest gag in Inside Out. I mean, I don't know. Grief would be a good one. Grief would be good. I think. I want to fall back on saying horny, voiced by John Cena, because I think that'd be fucking hilarious.
John Cena would be perfect for Inside Out. Has he done a Pixar film yet?
No.
But just like his absolute. Huh?
You're onto something.
Well, this was. I think John Cena as like a deadpan emotion where he's like, "Don't worry, guys, I have this. It'll be fine." Like nonchalance, voiced by John Cena. Indifferent,
he can be
voiced
really
by John
sad.
Cena. Just, it'll be fine. Don't worry. I don't know who I would.
I can't look past that.
Is Envy? Is it Envy's already emotion, isn't it?
I think Envy was in the sequel.
The second one, right?
Well, they did.
I know
Anxiety,
ennui
Envy,
was a feeling.
Have they done
Embarrassment.
love?
No.
So surely that's the next thing for Riley, right? Like love and like getting confused, dating, things like that. Maybe like.
If Inside Out 2 was braver, she'd be a lesbian. I'm just going to say that. If Inside Out 2 was a braver movie, she'd have gotten with that other hockey girl.
She still might.
They tried to imply it. They tried to imply it, didn't they? And then they cut it, which I think is very.
Well, that's because they don't want them. They still want that China dollar. But
cash in the bank.
Yeah, love, like romantic love would be a good one, like romance, and I suppose
voiced by
I
don't know. That's tough.
Who's romantic? Taylor Swift.
Jennifer Lawrence. She could do it, but obviously, is it too much
Jennifer Lawrence
voice?
How
voiced
would
by?
I don't know. I don't know why I'm going British, or maybe because I've been on the Game of Thrones hype. But Emilia Clarke as Love, maybe.
Oh my god, I'm Love, and I'm here to fall in love. Oh my god.
Actually, that's
Emma Stone.
Well, it's almost like you worked in casting for a bit. Yeah.
Emma Stone could work. This is it. This is the excitement of the third one. It's like, great, you pick the emotion. We find out that. Sorry, Paul, I'm not going to stop you. John Cena's got to be an Inside Out or a Pixar film.
John Cena. He just has to be like I don't know. What John Cena's so deadpan. He needs to be like indifference. Like he gets a job and he's just like, oh well.
He should just be confident. Confidence would be a great
confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence.
That's a great emotion.
Hello, I'm confident. Do you know what you're doing? Of course I know what I'm doing. Get out of my way. Push, 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 push. Uh-oh. It's fine. I meant to do that. That would be great. But John Cena in Inside Out 3, you cowards.
There we go. I'm sold. Inside Out 3. Now I'm more excited for the film. But this is it. It's the intrigue of who's new, what do you bring in, how, and what's the story. And they'll find that out, and we'll get there. And this has been a fun episode. I know it went a little bit then at the end. But we're still doing an hour 20. As I said, there's not as much to speak about. But as we get further into the series, there are less, not disrespecting the technology, but there are less of those, here's this new engine, here's this new technology, here's this redesigning the 20-30 character models. It does become something. We've had a lovely chat about Inside Out. It's been a pleasure to have you both on. Where I have to start going on a downer is looking at what is to come on this series, because next up we have The Good Dinosaur. And I've got a very lucky guest on that. Good friend of the channel, Cam Smith, part of Spy Hearts. He's joining us on 3 videos for this series. He's joining us, I'm not joking, guys. He's been on Cars 2. He's going to be on The Good Dinosaur. And he's going to be on Lightyear after. That's 3 favours I
deserve this.
It was his... You know what? It's a running gag that started on the Spielberg series when he came on for Always, because no one wanted to be on it. And it's sort of stuck since. But... We've got Finding Dory on the board. Cars 3. Hooray. And I misread that as Halloween. Definitely not. On the 31st of March, we've got Coco, which is interesting because I've only seen that film once.
Coco's an absolute... That's a banger.
Yeah, I cried a lot when I saw it. I just remember Mama Coco at the end. And my older sister cried and had to leave the room because she got so upset. And now it's her little meme.
That's quite good.
I know she got a baby on the way soon. So, oh god, Coco might be out the week she gives birth. That's going to be wild. But everybody else, this is me rounding out. What have you both got going on at the moment? Theo, I know you mentioned you've got a newborn, so that's going to be a bulk of your time.
Yeah, the tiny man's watching all sorts. He's definitely the youngest person ever to watch Silence of the Lambs. I think he sort of enjoyed it. His review, he left a letterbox review which said, "I don't know why he doesn't just drink milk." So he enjoyed it a lot.
He'll know that banger of a song now, won't he? Like that, he'll be intrinsically linked.
Yeah, well, hopefully he didn't take too much from it. Like he's also watched all of Euphoria, so we've started strong.
Jesus Christ! And I thought I was irresponsible.
I haven't got a great deal going on, mate. To be honest, maybe I'll maybe I'll do some reviews for Scream 7 and Project Hail Mary. Maybe I won't. We'll see.
Definitely. Paul, what are you up to at the moment?
Still editing for Filmhounds magazine, still doing reviews. I've started doing weird history lessons and analysis on my TikTok. And just random videos. So, if you follow me on socials, I don't know what I'm up to, but I'm up to something.
Definitely. Everybody, please follow both of these. It's a pleasure to have you both on. It's been lovely to get you back on the channel. Paul, veteran of this series as well. I'm excited as to what is to come, and especially how these videos seem to always start. It's been an absolute pleasure. So that is me rounding out. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you then.